A few years before I started studying genetics as a formal topic of study in biology class, I saw a video from TED called DNA, the Book of You. And I remember being fascinated of how amazing can a molecule be. Well, DNA is not a simple molecule. What it carries goes beyond everything you have ever studied. Information. Yes, DNA is amazing, as I mentioned before, because it is a physical and palpable form of information. It is literally the book of you. Your DNA is what determines what makes you you, and not other person. But well, let's go to a journey inside of DNA. Have you ever wondered how many cells does your body have? Well, there's actually more cells in a person's body than there are stars in the Milky Way. And this is a huge, huge number of cells. It is around trillions of cells. And well, you may recognize it here. As you may know, or as you may study before, every cell has its own organelles, such as mitochondria, such as ribosomes, such as Golgi apparatus, and finally we have the nucleus, which may found here. And what happens in the nucleus? Well, in the nucleus is where DNA is actually stored. But how? We always hear this, but we never know like how. And well, as you may see here in the nucleus, there are some kind of tiny structures called chromosomes, which you may see here. A chromosome is basically a strand of DNA all into a simple shape. But the real shape of DNA is actually this. And I'm gonna tell you why. Well, do you know what DNA stands for? DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid, which is actually this. DNA is a double helix. What do I mean with a double helix? Well, we have two strands of there are two polynuclease strands. Has a difference of the RNA because RNA has only one polynucleic strand. But what is exactly DNA? DNA is a molecule made of polymers of nucleotides, which actually is a polynucleotide. As I mentioned before, a molecule of many nucleotides. But you may be wondering, how is a polynucleotide, or what is a nucleotide, or what is a nucleic acid? Well, it is actually this. DNA is basically formed by, first, a nitrogen-containing base, which is this one. The nitrogen-containing base could be, in DNA, could be adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. But DNA is not only formed by this. DNA is also formed by a pentose sugar, which in this case, as I mentioned, is a deoxyribose, as you may see. And it's also formed by a phosphate group, which is the phosphoric acid. There's the only nitrogen base found in DNA and not in RNA is the thymine, and this is how they actually nucleotides the two strands join together, because there we have adenine and we have thymine, we have guanine and we have cytosine, and these are formed by covalent bonds, as we may see here. Adenine and thymine has two covalent bonds, and guanine and cytosine has three covalent bonds. And this is basically what we found here. For example, let's pretend the purple little thingy we have here is the adenine. It may be always jointed with its complementary nitrogen base, which in this case is thymine. For example, let's pretend the pink thingy we have here is guanine, and it will always be joined with its pair, complementary pair, called cytosine. It is a very, very interesting thing because what DNA makes is actually, it tells, DNA actually controls all the activities of a cell. But how? How does DNA control all the activities found in a cell? Well, it is a simple answer, because DNA is a code for proteins, which you may see later with one of my friends explaining. But actually what DNA does is control the protein structure by determining the exact order of the amino acids joined together when proteins are made in a cell.